Hello, everybody. Weird opening for the LJL officially unofficial content. We've had some recording and technical problems during the first split of week 3. So these first 4 games are going to have audio problems. The Axis game for the first one, so that's Axis versus Rascal Jester. A lot of the recording became corrupted, or parts of the stream ran out, so stuff that I had doesn't work, and then stuff I did have, I'm now having to splice with Twitch archived footage. It's a little bit of a pain, but thank you for your understanding, and come the next 4 games of week 3, we're hoping to have that all solved, so thank you for your understanding. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast. We just watched a phenomenal game by Crest Gaming Act versus V3 Esports. So many team fights, so much happened in that game, and it ended up with one gigantic team fight, which meant that Baron and Elder Drake weren't taken, even though they were both on the map. Which is
doesn't matter if everyone's dead.
Which just confuses me, because in solo queue it's just like, well, you just get the objective and then you win the game. It's not the other way around. You don't kill everybody.
You take objectives in your solo queue?
I mean, we normally lose, but I mean, we try.
The objectives are kills, right? That's what they really are. The true objective.
KDA is the objective. KDA.
Yeah,
But with that in mind, our 4th and final game for today, and for this week, for us, will be V3 versus Rascal Jester. Now, V3 are coming off of a very, very close game, but a win nonetheless. Potentially the better comp they did draft, in my opinion, versus Rascal Jester, who had a slight upset, some would argue, in the overall kind of performance, and they're actually kind of trying to announce themselves as one of the better teams in the region. So this is definitely a game I'm super excited to watch.
Yeah, so Rascal Jester lost to Axes, who were the 0-4 team coming into this week. No other team had gone 0-4. They lost to them, and not only that, they lost to them decisively.
Yes.
So Rascal Jester had played the top 4 teams coming into this week. They played against DFM, Sengoku, Softban Hawks, and CGA. They picked up a win versus CGA, and they looked competitive in the other games. So we thought that they were going to come into this week on similar form and kind of put Axis to rest, really. That absolutely didn't happen, and now they're 0-1, looking to regain a win to go 1-1 for the week.
This will not be an easy fight. CGA are going to be, or no, sorry, it's not CGA. V3 came off a very strong win, rather. Apologies. Against CGA. It was a close game, sure, but Archer had some fabulous late game team fights and really took it to town in the end there. And Rascal Jester have got to pick up this win if they don't want to end up being 1-5 after the end of week 3. That will be a really rough start, especially if they do want to consider things like playoffs. That's not a deficit you want to be climbing back from.
Yeah.
So they really could do with this win.
Yeah. For this match, obviously, as you have said countless times, Alex, we are doing this on 10.2. So obviously Akali is still in her strong phase. But with that in mind, I'm kind of interested in thinking about which is the lane to watch. Now, personally, I'm of the opinion that I think Archer and Reyna versus Art and Vivid is kind of, that bot lane is going to be the most interesting part. Obviously, the whole game will be interesting, but that's where I'm kind of thinking, ooh, that's maybe where the small edges might lie for both teams.
Yeah. I think that Archer has been really impressive overall in the first 3 weeks. I think his first game of the day against Axes, he got shut down really hard by Galliardo on LeBlanc, really getting on top of him a lot of those games. But overall, I think Art has been one of the standout AD carry performances. And actually, Archer, the more I look back at it, so he was actually my week 1 bot lane MVP. I thought that this guy had a really good debut. Even though they lost against DFM, he looked good in lane and other stuff. And then
he held his own.
1-6 on Aphelios. But in the game that he just played, Archer was the win condition. He was the team. Archer shoots them down, and he won that last team fight for them. And so for me, it has to be the bot lane. I agree.
Yeah, and it's also like Vivid is one of these very old school,
Yes.
excellent supports from the LJL. Great bot laner as well, and Reyna's had a pretty good performance on the Thresh as well.
Yeah.
So I think that bot lane, I agree, could be a really big pressure point. And of course, Boogie more than happy
Yeah.
to go wandering down there and causing
Make some havoc,
chaos.
yeah.
Of course, with Hatchamecha as well. We'll have to see whether V3 go back towards something like one of their earlier dive comps.
Oh, I really would like that, and I do think you picked up on a very interesting point, Initialize. Boogie and Hatchamacha, I think, are going to also be deciding factors. These are junglers who very much like to make a statement across the whole map. They want to kind of be impactful. They're not junglers who are going to farm and play a supportive role. They want to kind of play the initiation champs, and they want to get involved in a lot of spots. And obviously, they have very diverse champion pools, do both of these players, especially Bengi.
Boogie.
But, god damn it.
That's how he's doing it.
I'm sorry.
We
We
talked
can't
about
let
this
that
in the,
one go.
we talked about this in the podcast episode as well. That's some good stuff. But like,
Boogie.
I think there's also something to. I want to see what Hatchamecha goes towards on this jungle because I was not impressed with his Jarvan performance earlier. And actually, looking back to his week 2 performance as well, I think he picked a Jarvan there and didn't look particularly good there either.
That was the one versus CJ, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I thought that one was okay. That was pretty okay.
because he was. I wasn't massively impressed with his Jarvan, so we'll have to see what he goes towards. I would rather
That
see
was
him.
week 1 actually.
Yeah, and what he wants to think about with the. Gosh, I can make this word out. Fat Man Gragas. There we go. Which he's significantly better on.
I agree. He's a very good. He's a good Gragas player.
Yeah, we'll have to see where he ends up, and if he does kind of end up on a champion that he's not having the impact on he wants to, much like he did early in the day today, could spell trouble for V3.
With that all taken account for, let's get ready to count in for this game and go into our final game for the day for us over here on the LJL Unofficial cast. So in 3, 2, 1, let's get into pick and ban, and good luck to both of the teams.
All right, well, we are finally into draft. Thank you again, Masked Swan. So let's run through some team rosters. Back on the blue side, it is V3 with Paz, Boogie, Ace, Archer, and Reyna. Or apologies, taking the blue side. They were red side last time.
They were. And for the second time today, we have Rascal Jester. They're over on the red side. In the top lanes, Cog, Jungle, Hatchamecha, mid lane, Ninja, bot lane, Art, and support, Vivid.
And a number of bans already through. Rumble, Soraka taken away from Rascal Jester, of course. Ninja having played the Soraka mid lane. Worth taking that away. Akali and Set taken off the board for V3 as well. So that's all gone
I think,
now.
yeah. And we've seen Sat banned every game today. No one really wants to give that first pick over to the team on the blue side. And we were talking about how Hatchamecha had a bit of a awkward Jarvan game against the elusive Hoglet earlier in the day. The Jarvan has been banned away from him regardless.
Yeah, and we'll see what Rascal Jester round out their bans with. I half wonder whether it might be something like the Elise. There we go. As I was about to say it, taken away. Boogie had a very good early game, even if it got a little bit sloppier. About 15-20 minutes, but some good stuff.
But so for the first time today, Syndra is not banned.
Yeah, and V3
the Aphelios is also being
looking
covered.
at this Aphelios, which Archer has played to great success.
Oh, massively.
We talked about his week 1 performance where he hit like 11-1 and 9 or something. Did a lot of work.
It was a large game.
Yeah, that was a game where they ran over V3, ran over Axis in 23 minutes.
Yeah.
So definitely something you can play. Cog hovering that Zach again. Probably unlikely, but I have had that conversation. I've had that conversation about why it could be quite a good one, especially with Jarvan off the board. But it's gone towards the Aatrox again, so never mind.
He's hovering it. I mean, the Ornn is also available if they want to try and lock in a top lane as well.
And you talk about it, and thus it happens.
That is going to be the lock-in. I think Ornn is just way too good in these team fighting situations. And then the LGL as a region, really loving to go towards these team fight kind of styles. We'll see if there is the Syndra or the Senna picked up, or maybe even the MF as well. All of these are very prioritized picks in the LJL. I mean,
go on. Be a risky pick, but I suppose it would hide your AD carry for now. Going towards the Nautilus makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think the Nautilus is pretty good at catching out the Aphelios, and also really good with the Aphelios going forwards as an aggressive pick. I think that V3 probably looking towards something like either a Thresh or a Leona now. I think that Leona had a very good game on the Thresh last game, so I think that might be an interesting pickup. They're hovering junglers for now, though. No junglers.
He is a good lead in. It would be a pleasure to see him on it, and he's picked it up. So that'll be exciting things. I'm looking forward to see what this man can pull off early on in the game. But of course, Aphelios as well, having to contend with this Nautilus, having to contend with the Call of the Forge God as well. as immobile as Aphelios is, that is quite hard to avoid potentially. But LeBlanc has been left up, and it's one of Ace's favourite champions. We've seen his Jace earlier, but it's onto the LeBlanc this time.
Okay, so now we have to see what Ninja really wants to play into that. He did play the he did play the Jace earlier, was it Ninja?
It was the
he's played Silas. Sorry,
is what he
Silas. Yes, Ace that played Jace last game. Jace on Ace.
Indeed.
And yeah, so it might be something like the Silas again. Actually, hovering Lysandra was played by Axes earlier in the day. This is the second Lysandra pick that we have seen. I think we saw a ban against it before, but yes, this was.
It's not the same trio that Axis used versus CGA on Nautilus.
No, they had the They had the Thresh in that game. It was against the Nautilus. That was Grendel on the Nautilus walking into a lot of different brushes and dying. That game was a bit of a sad experience for the support.
Either way, that's a lot of team fighting. CC and engage now from Rascal Jester.
Yeah, and they
means that potentially Hachimachi can go towards something that's not quite so heavy on the engage, perhaps, if that's what he's
saying. Yeah, and they ban out the Braum, which means that Ornn is free to use his ultimate whenever he feels free, unless they're going to lock in something like a Yasuo for that other denial, which pretty unlikely. It's the Rek'Sai banned away now by V3.
Yeah, Rek'Sai has gone. We'll see whether probably a second support ban, I imagine. Something like the Leona would make a lot of sense. Potentially something like a Thresh as well to get that lantern off the board.
Might also be Tom
not a bad
just because it's good versus the Lysandra. Might ban that out.
Yeah, and it would potentially stunt the engage and keep that Aphelios alive. And maybe Rascal Jester don't want to think about it. They have gone towards the Thresh. Reyna has proved himself pretty good at that champion.
Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Reyna had a really good game on that Thresh in their first game, which is the game which just went by. Really interesting game. The bot lane really carried through there. And we do have Archer on another one of these really hard scaling crit carries in the bot lane. Not the Xayah this time, but the Aphelios does still do a heck of a lot of damage, though, as we've seen multiple times through these first 3 weeks, which actually happened in the space of 1 week.
Indeed. And the last ban is
Misfortune.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Another one of those team fight carries with a lot of early pressure. Bullet time on top of all that engage would potentially be a real nightmare for V3 to navigate.
I mean, we have seen the Jinx played in these kind of team fight comps as well. Lysandra Jinx pretty good at getting resets and then using the Lysandra passive to kind of chase people down. Actually hovering over the Sejuani, hovering over some junglers.
Another tank front, but it would mean it's pretty much a 1.5 threat team. Lysandra brings Sunburst, but it's not necessarily totally the highest damage. Of course, her passive with those White Walker-esque wraiths. Offering a lot of team fight damage if the kills can come through. But Sejuani picked up, and that's going to be the Freljordian duo. A Glacial Prison and a Frozen Tomb, both available.
I mean, you pick up the Ashe, and you've got all the Glacial stuff there. The Long Night coming in strong there.
Yeah, the old sisters coming back together to show us how it all works, Freljordian style. But Leona locked in for Reyna. So it'll be Aphelios, Leona down the bot side, which is a fair amount of damage.
It's good engage, and I think if V3 had locked in the Tahm Kench, they would be really seriously lacking engage. So I'm not sure they could really afford to pick up the rather muted pick of Tahm Kench in this case. But it depends what they
pick up top here. Looking towards a Gangplank, I can see a lot of damage. The Cannon Barrage is a particularly useful denial tool, especially if some of these champions are going to want to be kind of storming through areas, could potentially buy a little bit of space for these.
Yeah, and so it's not. So what this means is that you pick the GP into a rather low damage top side between Hatch and Mecha on Sejuani and Cog on. Or there are a lot of kill combos with a lot of brittle blocks.
Go on, Arts.
Going into some
Gango's shown you can do it. Arts thinking about it. I want to see a Draven.
Yeah, it would be pretty fun. It would be another crit carry as well. Pretty good at denying the Leona. But it is actually Lysandra. Not Lysandra. It's the Jinx, which was locked in earlier today by Axes versus CGA. There were some really fun team fights around that. What we see is that you're aiming to CC the first target to high heavens and then get the reset with the Jinx, get excited, and run forward in the team fight.
Well, a lot of frontliners for Jinx to hide behind and get excited for, but it's once again Aphelios versus Jinx. These two hyperscaling carries. I'll be really excited to see whether Art can survive, run the cleanse again, trying to survive versus the Leona, the Graviton route, and of course the LeBlanc that will be absolutely gunning for this Jinx. And of course, that's a Lee Sin with ward hops and kicks and insect abilities to really make that Jinx suffer. So still a bit of a risk even with the front line.
But the problem with the Lee Sin is that if you're trying to ward hop around a Lysandra or the Nautilus, more often than not you are going to get locked in place and be the first kill for the side of Rascal Jester. So I'm a little bit worried for Boogie. I think that he's going to have to control the early game, but going into the mid game, his team fights are going to be quite difficult.
Yeah, he's going to have to create some clever flanks, I imagine, play with some vision, or go in a bit later maybe. Wait for the Leona and stuff to go and wait for some of that CC to be burned from the side of Rascal Jester before thinking to dive in a little bit later on.
I think that Ace, I'd like to see what summoner he's taken. I didn't quite catch that in the champion select, but if it's not the cleanse, I think Ace has to play so very tentatively. Well, we'll see if you can change those in the last 20 seconds. Okay. So when we kind of go away from that, sometimes people do end up changing their summoners as we go into game. But if this LeBlanc doesn't have cleanse, you have to play so tentatively around the mid lane. Obviously, you do like taking the teleport as well, being able to go into the side lane and become a bit of that 1-3-1 split push pressure, just being able to soak up a lot of side lane farm, particularly with the GP as well on the team. That is quite effective.
But it is the carry duo that CGA turned around in the game's Fortunes versus Axis within the LeBlanc and the Aphelios. It's once again Alessandra and a Jinx into it, and we'll see whether this time around the carry pairings fare differently, but it's an early level 1 engage from V3, who are going through into Rascal Jester's blue side, dropping a ward. It's been spotted by Vivid and Art, who then disappear towards their tier 1 tower for safety.
Yeah, I think that so Aphelios pretty strong at level 1 with his both of his weapons and the long range of caliber and being able to put in those extra couple of autos. It is actually the teleport coming down from the LeBlanc as Ninja just poking out Boogie with a little Q there.
Ward put down onto V3's blue buff as well as Sejuani recalls and heads towards her own blue buff, but this will be spotted out. Wards had been dropped by the side of V3.
Yeah, so Sejuani did have a bit of a buff on this patch, did have a bit of extra attack speed put in at her level 1 state, extra 10% on top of her regular base attack speed as well. So, just because, as we see a Q thrown out by Cog there. So Sejuani is quite based on her attack speed, obviously uses a lot of those permafrost to do a lot of damage there. As we can see, they're using it twice on the blue buff, does a lot of damage.
Yeah, and the early sweeper doesn't catch out V3's ward, so that was sadly not going to catch that. But we're going to see the bot side starts for both junglers, but Lee Sin careening over towards his own blue buff will be spotted out by that ward we called earlier. But Art and Vivid and Archer and Reina straight at it in the bot lane.
Ready to going red to red, actually. He's trying to get a steal off on this red buff here.
But that does mean that without Boogie turning up on the blue buff for the next 10, 20 seconds, we're going to know that Sejuani's going to have a bit of an inkling that's where the Lee Sin has turned up, assuming she reads the darkness right.
Yeah, so Hachimacho went for the Gromp, and a lot of junglers, if you do go for a Gromp on your first clear, you do tend to smite that as well, so no smite available for the Sejuani. Boogie actually getting spotted on the Krugs there by the minion wave. Was thinking about not going for that, but is spotted there. Hachimacho at this point might actually go for a
contestable. Cog is here. It'll be level 2 versus level 2, but Gangplank set, and that's going to be the end of that. And Hachimecha stops all the Krugs being stolen, but that's an early lead for Boogie.
It's an early lead for Boogie just because, right now, obviously Boogie is level 2, Hachimecha is level 3, but he has more camps to go and take. He's obviously all he's done is denied. Hachimecha didn't trade for anything in the Lee Sin's jungle, so that means that he'll have a lot more farm to go back to on this first round of camp timers.
Yeah, so maybe we won't see early ganks from Lee Sin, but he'll be a very fat and happy Lee Sin as he returns home, having cleared up, 3-ish quadrants of the jungle.
Yeah, something like that. And what we see now is actually because Boogie was spending so much time on the top side, we saw that GP has managed to push into this Ornn slightly here, just getting a little bit of lane priority, able to poke out with the parlay, with the grass procs as well. So he's pretty happy here. Is Paz in the top lane?
Yeah, and actually it's a pretty even bot side for now, as Art and Vivid disappear into the river bush. But that's about that. Sejuani going for this bot side. Scuttlecrab does stack that permafrost a little bit more. I quite like this Lunar Revel skin, actually. It's the drum on the back of it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If they picked up the Tom Kench, they could have had the Coin Emperor Tom Kench as well.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I like those skins. They're all kind of cute and golden and all that stuff.
Apparently, there's major probably unsurprisingly, major skill sale. That's probably the word we're going for. Sale discrepancies across the regions. It's much more popular over in the Asian regions are those skins than they are over in the West. But that's probably because Lunar Revel and of course Chinese New Year is a significantly more celebrated holiday over in that part of the world, unsurprisingly.
Hey, I'm always down for another party. You know.
Always down for another party. It's always good.
Yeah.
Are you really there? You're not that much of a party.
No, I'm such an introvert. Doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. I'd say, are you really?
Okay,
Are
so
you really?
we see Boogie actually. So he skipped through his wolves. He's found his way down onto the bot side, going over to the Krugs here as well.
More experience in those than the Wolves. I can understand that.
Don't do Krugs, kids. No, absolutely do Krugs. We're
Do
telling
Krugs.
you on this broadcast.
All junglers do Krugs. Really important.
Yeah. Do Krugs. Make sure you're addicted to them. All of that stuff.
Yep, especially because they changed the. I'm not sure whether it's on this patch, whether it's the next one, but they changed the way the XP works on Krugs by adding a little bit more into the secondary smaller Krugs. So worth sticking around for all of them now. It gives a little bit more, stops you from being so anemic gold and experience wise in the jungle. Does that.
Yeah, it means that you reach like your mid levels a bit quicker. Your level 1 to 3 about the same. Then 4 to 7 gets a little bit quicker. I actually can't remember if it's 10.2 or 10.3. I really should have kept that in mind.
I want to say 10.3, but I'm not entirely sure.
But
Boogie is here over the wall, and that's going to be an Arctic assault into Boogie, which does have a bit of a Zenith Blade coming through. But Ninja is coming to Hachimecha, has to blast plant away, but flash burn as well. But that's a decent ethereal chain onto Ninja that trades pretty hard for a mace.
Yeah, so Lysandra no longer has that old passive where you used to get a free ability every so often. So your mana is pretty low if you do use your full rotation, as we see Ninja just ticking up to level 6 in the mid lane.
Indeed, and that means that there is that slight experience lead for the Lysandra. But that's another good Zenith Blade, but the Flame Chompers keep Archer away from the fight for longer than maybe they would have liked. But that's a decent Gravitum trade there, and Art takes a lot of damage at the end of that.
Yeah, so actually Gravitum's little root thing, although Gravitum doesn't apply any on-hit effects when you hit someone with that weapon, when you press the Q and you do kind of activate that root, actually does a decent amount of burst. It's like an extra half an auto's worth of trading. So right there with the Q cancel with the Infernum into the Gravitum root as well. Good trade back from Arch there on the Aphelios.
They're going to lose a wave to tower here as well as a result of that, and probably a plate or two. So that's a pretty good lead built up now by Arch and Raynor after that trade.
Yeah, I mean, Nautilus is sticking around. Might try and just either wave for a little bit of wave clear. It's just the one turret plate going down. We'll see if Archer manages to back and get that full BF sword. I have to imagine so, because he's got 56 CS in his pocket.
And Elite Jinx kind of returns to favor, comes back to lane with a BF sword, having not burned summoners, rather. Cinnamoners would be a very different kind of like spice-based summoner spell, which I'm not sure would be all that effective.
For the next 5 seconds, make the CS taste more tasty when you kill them.
Yeah, it's the cinnamon challenge, but with CS.
Wow, just eat as much as you can. Yeah. Is that like the race to 300 CS? Is that
it? Exactly. Yes, it would be very dry.
Cinemas
quite
challenge,
literally very dry. I'm glad they changed the 1v1 rules, actually significantly more exciting for seeing the kills. But Ninja and Ace being traded, but Raynor is here. And that means that the claw isn't able to take it out. But there is a frozen tomb there to try and save it, but the
Lee Sin!
And Lee Sin doesn't quite land it. Lisa Boogie is stunned for first blood. Oh, that's tragedy. And Ace is going in trying to trade back. He's got to land on the ethereal train, but despite a great early setup there from V3, it's turned around by the Sejuani. Lisa misses the ability at the end of the Sonic Wave.
I think he actually had it cancelled. I think he had the knockup cancelled. And then that was it. He took an extra turret shot, had the ignite go down, and actually just throwing out the E, even without proccing the permafrost, does a fair bit of damage from the Sejuani here. So the important interactions here are that Ace he misses the first chain, but gets the second one, and while the Lysandra is CC'd, means that he cannot cast the E there. And yeah, we do see actually the Arctic Assault cancelling Lee Sin's dash there, gives him into a tower shot as well. The ignite comes through, and Boogie goes down for first blood.
A well-timed Arctic Assault there from Hachimecha saves his mid laner's life. Boogie's going to feel a bit frustrated by that, but actually, great play from the Sejuani.
Yeah, and the problem I have now is that actually Hachimecha will start to be increasingly more relevant as this game goes on. Although,
flash misses. That's frustrating for the side of V3, but they're going to start up this Cloud Drake regardless. But that's 4 members for Rascal Jester around and about, and I suspect they know exactly what's going on down here, but they are still going to be too late. Man. Cloud Drake picked up. Infernal Drake will be second. That means we either get an Ocean or a Mountain Rift, depending. Yeah. I'm hoping for an Ocean Rift, significantly more exciting in terms of the soul is just so good and adds a little bit more drama.
You know what we saw there is that when you have the Chakram turret down with Calibrum on there as well. It applies the mark, which gives you an auto cancel, which means that you're continually auto canceling, gives you like basically double your attack speed at that point in time if you're stood. If the enemy, in this case the inanimate Drake, is stood within the range of the turret, it just means you have so much DPS and the dragon goes down very quickly.
I saw Sneaky abuse that interaction once or twice before they nerfed the range on the Calibrum mark.
Yeah.
It was like, and now I have shot you to death with like 3 Calibrum autos from the other side of the map, which is just a bit ridiculous.
I think there's been a few Aphelios plays make it the front page of Reddit and various other social media since its release.
It's like, yeah, I mean, let me throw down rapid fire Caitlyn ace in the holes on you while you're trying to walk away.
Wow, that's a fun interaction.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need in your life. But probably, fortunately, that's been removed as an interaction. Much more limited range.
Bringing it back to the game, as occasionally we have to do. It's a shame.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, we do. The Herald picked up by V3 is picked up by Boogie.
Oh, so it was. I was too busy chatting about Calibrum. Let's get back on the game. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll see where V3 choose to put that down. Obviously, it normally tends to go towards the top lane, but Gangplank pretty happy to just kind of sit in this laning phase, scale up against this kind of free lane versus the Ornn. No real kill pressure here. Might end up getting traded against at some point, but the Sejuani not really making any headway in the top lane so far.
We're looking at pretty much parity in the bot lane as well. Art has gone from the back, so at least has a BF sword advantage. We'll see whether Archer and Reyna decide to follow suit and be able to match that. But the only real discrepancy is this slight gold lead for Rascal Jester from the first blood and the outplay in the mid lane.
Yeah, and that was kind of sad because it does put the Lee Sin down a little bit. Actually, even in camps with Hatch and Merchant now, it's same level. Although the Herald was, of course, picked up alongside the Dragon for V3. So the early objectives going the way of V3 and this early jungler of Lee Sin.
Steals away one of the chickens. Where are we at with the win conditions for the different teams? Of course, this Lee Sin hasn't taken over the early game. It's now gone 11 minutes. What's the kind of play here?
Well, I mean, Sejuani made his level 6 without dying, and more importantly, getting a kill as well, has made a way to the Cinderhulk, very tanky at this point in time, which means that these first couple of fights where we have seen the Lissandra be very effective, and also being able to set up for this Jinx means that the team fights are going to have to be very well managed by V3 to make sure someone doesn't fall early enough that Get Excited comes in and turns a team fight.
And V3 are going to wish they had Ninja as the later this game goes, because they're going to need to assassinate this Jinx if they want to win out some of these team fights. Yeah. But, of course, it is... We'll call it a soul carry team. It's not quite, of course, because Lissandra does offer burst, does offer damage. But... most of the hard lifting will be on the back of Art on
when it gets to late game, it's definitely Jinx that needs to do a lot of damage.
Another engage here in the mid lane, but backed away from with a swift glacial path.
But also, it's, actually, Sejuani and Ornn do a lot of burst damage onto the first target they hit as well, particularly when you have the Brittle procs coming in, you have Permafrost proccing as well, particularly if also Sejuani leads with the regular Permafrost and then into the alt Permafrost as well. Both of the times you knock that off means that you get a good amount of % HP damage going down.
Well,
so
V3 are tired of this early game not going in their favor, so they're going to do this, but there is double TP available, and they're all hidden in bushes. Here we go. This is going to be a 4v5. Hatchemetcha is here. He's got the explosion, and look at the damage already thrown down. Boogie is so low. And Ice has already killed Lissandra, and that is not good news for Rascal Jester. Archer is so low as well. Cog has slain Archer, and we're looking at Reyna now running away. Cog very, very low. This Jinx trying her hardest to kill people of Paz, now taking mad amounts of damage, and she still has the excited to keep running down this Leona, and that is now 4-4-1 in kills for Rascal Jester.
And the double TP pays off in spades. It's a 3-for-1 for the side of Rascal Jester, who now have a win condition in the side of this Jinx, getting so much further ahead. Probably after this, we'll be able to take down some of the plates in this bot lane, go back and buy a full Infinity Edge, I have to think. And basically, you could see them preparing for this play so far in advance. The Herald baits V3 to try and go for this turret. There's a good Nautilus ult onto Archer, and then the CC starts coming in from the side of Rascal Jester. The Lissandra actually dies pretty early into this fight, but it's still the backline. Still the backline, which is so far up in damage and HP compared to V3. Cog gets the assassination onto the Aphelios, and it's the Jinx which manages to finally take down Paz here and run down Reyna as well at the end of it. Gets the W there for the vision and the slow, and Art is off to the races.
Yeah, and Cog survives that fight despite going down very very perilously low.
And you know what would have helped is the fact that if Art had realized he had cleanse instead of heal and didn't randomly cleanse.
Yeah, that was a bit of a fat finger moment. But this Jinx is now 5,100 gold compared to the 4,800 gold of the Aphelios. So feeling pretty content. Infernal Drake is live. So maybe it'll be time for round 2. A lot of these ultimates are pretty much available. Again, we're just waiting on Glacial Prison at this point, and Depth Charge is up. So that's going to be all ults available apart from Cannon Barrage, apart from the Glacial Prison.
So actually, quite a few of them down.
Well, most of them were up.
So the Ornn ult is also
I missed
not
that one.
up
Okay, so
as
I
well.
was wrong actually what was going on.
Although they will be coming up in the next couple of seconds. That's probably what they've been waiting for as well. Hachimecha just taking down this blue buff, or at least actually handing it over to the mid lane. You know, that's a good Valentine's present. That's the one we like to hear about. You know, give me the second blue, and I'll give you my heart.
Very much the story of Frozen. 2 sisters sharing the love, having a great familial moment.
That's
I was going with like sisterly love there. That was not intentionally going weird, but clearly my cast is getting weird there. But never mind. We're going to see the Infernal Drake taken.
Yeah, we actually see on the other side of the map V3 looking for a play on top side.
And it is the Ocean Rift. It's anything more exciting. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and Boogie was just hanging around the top here, just ready to take down this top lane turret, try and funnel a little bit gold into this Gangplank, who's well on his way to the Triforce.
Indeed, and he's getting his way that way, has picked up the component parts of Triforce the Bailey, so he should be backing and picking up fairly swiftly, but Rascal Jester rotate from one objective to the next, going towards this second Rift Herald.
Yeah, and the thing about the Rift Herald is that it's the one early game objective which can really change the state of the game nowadays. Getting a couple of dragons is also very important, as we've said, gets you closer towards the soul of whatever element it may be. But actually, the Herald's given over to Jinx there, maybe for some quick backing. You know, you do get that increased recall. But the Herald allows you to brute force down turrets that where your team might have been losing in the early game, can give you a chance to pop open a turret which you shouldn't have really had access to.
Yeah, and that might well be very true for this mid lane, or actually, frankly, either of the side lanes, because at the minute it's just V3 with the turret lead, who might take that top tier 1 as the Infernal Drake went down. So that's the early turret lead, at least for V3, but of course, as you said, that Rift Herald allows you access to turrets in a much more aggressive way.
Yes, it does. And also Jinx is one of the better tower destructors as well, alongside Tristana. Has the Get Excited and a lot of AD and attack speed. Scaling off of that minigun means that does take down the structures just very, very quickly.
Indeed, and that's sort of like going to hit a bit of a dead space in the game for now. We're looking at Infinity Edge complete for the Jinx, but it's Essence Reaver over for that Aphelios.
This is where we reach like the slice of life League of Legends bit.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like there's not very much happening. You enjoy it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I'm slightly sad we didn't see the Ashe. Actually, it would have been nice to sort of see all the Freljordian sisters like fighting it out. But we have got on this Jinx. Been pretty good so far, actually. Considering we were a bit nervous when we saw the Jinx first picked earlier today, that the Jinx could get caught out, and actually largely they've been fairly successful.
I mean, this is still a pretty strong LeBlanc in the mid lane. Does have the Lunes completed, and Art doesn't have the heal to have that extra buffer against that kind of damage. So there is the chance that Ace can just blow up the Jinx before the fight is decided, and decide it himself on his own terms.
And speaking of that, LeBlanc does manage to claim a second turret for V3 out in that bot lane.
Yeah, so I think both these mid laners are a pretty good point of power now. I think that Lysandra, feeling pretty happy about herself, has the Ludens and the stopwatch, not going towards the Pred Belt this time, going for more of the early CDR and mana that you get from that item, because Lysandra nowadays does have a few mana issues because of some of her mana cost nerfs.
Indeed, but of course, having built the Lost Chapter item, that has helped. But Rift Herald is summoned in mid lane, and we're looking at a bit of a gathering now from Rascal Jester, looking to make the most use of this as they can. But V3 collapsing as well. Let's see how this goes. Paz is in the river, so is Boogie, trying to wind his way behind the team. He's not spotted, but Cog is kind of aware that's where they might be coming. Ooh. Just a big chunk out of the mid lane tier 1. Don't actually manage to take it.
Boogie was looking for something there, but as I said in draft, there are a lot of tools available to keep this Lee Sin accountable. You know, if you are kind of trying to ward hop, get behind one of the carries, there's a good chance that the bodyguards of the Ornn, the Sejuani, and the Nautilus can get to you first.
Yes. once again, though, we're back to sort of not a lot happening because, Ocean Drake will be coming up in about a minute, which will be nice, and maybe we'll get some more exciting stuff there. But that Rift Hub was a little bit of a anticlimax. I was expecting a bit more to happen.
That's like episode 10 in your slice of life anime where they have to throw something dramatic at you.
Is this like the band episode where they start a band and it all goes wrong?
I just can't wait for the beach episode, dude. Like, we've got to have that. Got to have the hot tub episode.
Well, no one's wearing the pool party skins, so
No,
that's not happening. Sorry about that. I'm not sure. Do any of these champions have pool parties? Because Gangplank does.
Oh, GP does.
And Leona does. Okay, so actually, V3 could have pulled off like a slightly. It would have been a fairly poor beach party skin, but they could have done it.
It would have been the token.
Oh, Lee Sin does as well. Actually, there's 3. Okay,
actually
that's
3.
pretty good.
So actually,
that's pretty good.
So actually, no, they just don't care.
Yeah, they don't.
They
Where
okay,
where
right.
was the beach special, man?
Maybe we like take some hints from that and just maybe just stop.
That's probably a good thought. V3 no better than us.
We see the blue buff being handed over once again. Top lane being pushed in, but
V3 are playing the side lane significantly better than Rascal Jester are at the minute. This would be another big push onto this top lane inner turret, in fact. And Cogog should be there, but it will come at the cost of this Ocean Drake.
I'm pretty sure they
here
can't
to try and
kill
stop
Cogog
that. No, they can't. But Cogog can't clear the wave either, and that means that top tier 2 does go down. But it will be at the cost of an Ocean Drake.
Yeah, so it will be at the cost of the Ocean Drake, which gets Rascal Jester up to their second Drake of the game on their way to the Ocean Soul. It will take them a little while to get to that point, though, and Gangplank will be scaling all the while that happens. So maybe V3 are just waiting until Gangplank can affect these team fights more than he is currently.
Indeed. We've seen the upgraded Ornn items starting to come through. The Sunfire Cape upgrade into the Fortifier Cape and the Frozen Fist complete now for that Ornn. And of course, there is a Luden's Echo and an Infinity Edge available to be upgraded when those levels are available. So we'll see when those come through, but those ornaments do add significant amounts of monetary stat value to your items.
Yeah, and also Jinx is a champion that is tending to go for the first time Infinity Edge. Was seeing Storm Razor actually a fair bit, but is the Infinity Edge.
I can see that being a useful choice.
After the Storm Razor got nerfed, it's gone from it was on 55 AD down to 50, something like that. Whereas the Infinity Edge giving you the larger amount of AD for those first AD crit items. Upgrading that into the Molten Edge from the Ornn is a very big point in power. It does mean that Jinx has, if you do crit with those rockets, just chunks people.
A Hurricane apiece picked up for the 2 AD carries, which would be significant amounts of area effect damage. So when one of these team fights finally breaks out, as we stick within the filler space of this particular episode of the LJL anime, there's going to be a fair amount of damage coming through across a number of members, you assume.
Yeah, I think we're all agreed on that matter. And actually, both of these AD carries have had good showings today.
Good Shane. Ninja is going to take about half his HP by an Ace is thinking about going in. It's a good Ring of Frost, but that's a fantastic cannon barrage. And Ninja pays for his hubris.
Death's Daughter claims the life of Ninja, just being a little bit disrespectful there. Takes down the chain from Ace, doesn't use the ult, doesn't use the flash, doesn't use the stopwatch. I'm not actually sure either of them would have saved Lysandra there,
He was being greedy for the demolish proc, takes the chain, takes the Death Daughter, that big additional cannon barrage from the but is it the Death Daughter or is it the Big Bertha or something?
It's Death Daughter.
Oh, that's the Warhammer Total War big cannon gun.
Yes,
that's what that is.
Yeah.
So that's completely, in fact, the wrong game.
Yeah, starting to blur some lines there with the video games as you play.
Like pirates with large cannons, like there's only so many to work off, right?
I think pirates with big cannons is like a pretty standard thing when you talk about pirates, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I think probably what I was going for, but there are so many that it blurs together. I think that was where I was going.
Yeah,
in fact, just phrased it wrong.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so at the end of this, we do see a near enough 2k lead for V3, probably about 1.5k. And as we were saying, it is the GP which picks up the kill, which funds his next buy in the Essence Reaver, so now up to 40% CDR, a good bit of crit now as well, 25% from the Essence Reaver in there, and just a lot of AD.
We've seen about a 3k gold swing overall towards V3 over the last sort of 15 minutes or so. So that's good work from that team, but we're once again in the mid lane. Ace is over the wall, finds a lot of damage onto Ninja, who once again takes a fair chunk before getting a heal from something.
Yeah. And one thing we've been seeing from the LeBlancs in the games today is that they are really poking up before these objectives come in. It can be this intangible X factor of, oh, we have a good team fight comp, but what happens if someone gets chunked out quite a lot? And
But hear ye, Ornn upgrades have come through. That's a Luden's Echo and an Infinity Age going up, but then incoming Ace over the wall. Doesn't do as much damage as I thought he might.
Yeah.
But mid-tier 1 finally cracked for Rascal Jester. Now 1 turret to the 3 of V3.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the game continues, if not apace, then at least at a stately meander.
We're sauntering. There's a bit of swagger in there.
But of course, another Ocean Drake will be coming up in another minute, and I'm hoping desperately that there will actually be some action around this one.
Yeah, and I think and the next time we have action, we have 2 ornaments put in on the side of Rascal Jester. We have the Molten Edge, as we were talking about, for the Jinx, and also the Luden's Echo upgraded for Ninja on the Lissandra.
Indeed, and of course, we're going to see what gets done. It's been a fairly low kill game at this point, but as we've said, Ace is pretty strong. He's actually picked up a Banshee's Veil at this point as well. But we haven't seen the team fight intensity that Rascal Jester can bring out since that double TP bot lane. And I think V3 have been rightly nervous to truly engage 5v5 since then.
I think they really just want to look for chunks, really, because they don't have as solid engage as Rascal Jester. Obviously, they have the Leona, but they have a lot of disengage from the Ornn ult coming in. Does have a good ability to dissuade teams from committing too far. And also the threat that if you do fail a team fight, you lose 1 member and Jinx starts running you down, and you've used your cooldowns to go forward.
All right, the Ornn Horn has been called, and that's a good stun now over in the mid lane, and Leona is in a lot of trouble, but that's a big tanky.
She's so tanky.
Wow, look at that. That's a good after, and Boogie's fighting way behind Art, but Art flashes away, and now Boogie can't get the kick, but has managed to get another Ninja, but V3's managed to kill Ninja, and Art
kick onto Art!
And Art has been slain the Lee Sin, but look at this, massive damage now from Archer in the backline, and Rascal Jester are being routed. So much damage, despite the Ornn being so tanking, and Paz manages to take down the Ornn as well at the end of that.
Oh, and actually it's V3 which come out with the clutch teamfight versus Rascal Jester. It's the AD carry of Archer, not Art, that survives that fight. Even though we were talking so much about how Jinx is so important in these fights, the first kill doesn't come down in time for Art to reposition well enough, and now it looks like V3 will be able to net themselves maybe a Baron.
Honey Fruit and teleports mean that they have the health bars to take off this Baron. Vivid is here, but there is no jungler. They've put down a ward. Is Ninja going to TP in? Yes, he is, but it's going to be very damn late.
Well, he will have ult.
There's going to be an incoming Jinx rocket starting off, but that's so much damage. That's a shutdown from Ninja. But look at the damage. It's being claimed by LeBlanc has this Baron, but look at the
Lissandra
TP.
passives.
Look at you're right. That is a Lissandra passive, and Reyna is going to go down. It will be 2 dead on the side of V3.
3 dead on
I
the side
think
of
so. That's very true. It is 3 dead, so they come out with, I think, 2 Baron buffs, assuming people respawned.
Oh, and Archer actually gets to get excited from across the map there, just getting down towards this Ocean Drake. That was, okay, so we're going way back to this mid lane part fight, which set everything off. So Hachimecha went in with the initial Sejuani ult, the GP ult went down as well as a disengage from V3, but Archer, even though Ninja was trying to focus him out, is just not at threat of dying here. He gets chunked out, he gets CC'd, but he's not going to die. Boogie is on the other side, gets a good kick onto the Jinx, which puts him into range of Ace on LeBlanc to finish off that AD carry as well. And at that point, there's just no damage left to finish off Archer here on the Aphelios. Although Paz so close to going down, doesn't manage to have that last auto come in from Cog to finish him off. And that does help them try and start up the Baron a little bit later.
And yeah, they take the Baron, but it's a minus 36 gold power play so far. Which is not necessarily what V3 were hoping for from that play. And more than that, actually, I want to give some real credit to Boogie there, who kind of stopped Art from doing any decent auto attacking in that fight.
Yeah.
Got a good ward hop Q onto the Jinx, who then flashed away from his flash and was then running around. Did manage to just get excited, but Reyna's Zenith Blade hit with just the edge of that to finally shut down the Jinx. But good play from the Lee Sin that we said was going to have a difficult time in these team fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some very tense team fights yet again this game, and this time there's no CGA involved. It's not a CGA team fight where people are just randomly fighting. There's been very back and forth. These teams showing that they do have the tools to deal a lot of damage from their carries. Obviously, the Aphelios doing a lot of work right now. It also has 3 items, as well as Art now picking up the rapid fire cannon, and Archer picking up the Infinity Edge himself. So both of these carries are the ones to watch in these team fights.
Indeed, they are, and it's about a 2,500 gold lead for V3 and Archer. Oh, sorry, not Archer. Ace is once again splitting up in a side lane, but that's a good dredge line onto Reyna. But it is a very tanky Leona who throws down her Eclipse and is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and that's why. Yep, that's why you pick tanky supports. Turns out that if CC lands, I mean, they don't die still.
Good news for Rascal Jester though is they are on Ocean Soul Point, which would be a fantastic soul to pick up for them. Especially if Art can continually get that healing proc from all the autos he'll be throwing out. And especially when Ace and Paz and Archer are trying to burst out these 2 damage sources from Rascal Jester, that could be a huge deal. And it means that when that Ocean Drake does spawn, it is going to be hotly contested.
Yeah, as it should be as well. But I think up into the next team fight, both teams will think that they have the tools to deal with the other team. It's going to be a lot about positioning, a lot about the vision control to make sure that this Lissandra doesn't come out of absolutely nowhere and nuke people. And the same can be said for the LeBlanc as well, who has picked up, as we were talking earlier, the Banshee's Veil, but now has an extra blasting one, probably going towards that Void Staff to up that damage. Banshee's Veil, not the highest damage AP item, even though it does give you some utility. The Void Staff helps kind of even out that power trough.
So Jinx has a stopwatch, has a rapid fire cannon now complete, has a BF sword in inventory, will be going towards that GA. Could be a lot harder to get a hold of in this fight, and Flash will be up fairly shortly as well, you've got to be hoping.
Yeah, whereas on the other side, Archer is set on 95% crit, has picked up the Zeal. Actually, that's 100% crit there as well. So yes, so Archer definitely going to be critting for a lot of damage. You see like 700 damage, 800 damage coming out from the Infernum as well. Just give you that extra AD scaling on your auto attacks. The only ninja that ends up going down on Lissandra, not before he chunks out 3 members of the side of E3. Art thinks that he can flash in, try and get that first kill, but with Archer's turret from the Crescendum put down, there is dissuaded just at the end of that. So there is no dragon taken just yet, and it is just spawning, and Ninja will just be up as these teams start trying to position around it. Looks like actually Rascal Jester heading towards the Baron instead, just to clear out some vision there, just seeding the dragon, which means they won't get the soul.
They won't, but maybe they think about rushing it. Jinx has items, there's a lot of tanky members, and it's spawning in 6 seconds. And with LeBlanc up in that top side and Lee Sin taking the dragon, maybe they can rush it. It's 32 minutes. They certainly have the damage.
Okay, so I don't think they're going to go for that just yet. Looks like Ninja is going down towards bot lane, has the teleport available. They just, Rascal Jester, the rest of the team, getting some vision around the Baron, just as we were saying before. And yeah, look, kind of after that dragon's been taken, seems like we're reaching a bit of a slower state in the game once more.
Yeah, Ocean Soul denied. Good kill onto Ninja, but it was inches from either team getting a significant advantage there. But right now, Rascal Jester baiting around this Baron, trying to maintain the vision control. It is a very tight game at the minute. There is an advantage to V3.
Yeah, 3.5k,
but
which
not
is
massively.
Yeah, 3.5k is not small, but when you have an extra Drake on the side of Rascal Jester and also 2 Ornn upgrades as well, they do even out a little bit in terms of the stats that they bought with that gold.
Yes, and Bramble Vest in for this Ornn as well, so the Aphelios not really going to be wanting to attack that Ornn as much if he can help it.
The problem is now that actually Rascal Jester, the Hachimetra and Vivid haven't actually bought any items that can be upgraded by Ornn.
No.
So there's the Knight's Fair on the side of Hachimetra, which is a good item, and obviously as a jungle, you don't get to your second item particularly quickly after you've built. So you build your jungle item, you build 1 item, and then the next one after that comes tortuously slowly. In the bot lane, it's a similar kind of story. The Stone Plate built up by Vivid, as he's managed to not die this game on the Nautilus so far, the only deathless member playing this game.
Despite actually that last fight where he got stuck in the middle of everybody. I'm very surprised he got out of that one alive.
Yeah, well, with the Aftershock and Stone Plate, you do have plans, but pops the Banshees.
Indeed, but that means the Banshees is down for a certain amount of time. Not a huge amount, but it is on cooldown from that.
I think it's about 40-45 seconds. It's a decent while.
Yeah, and
Archer just taking the red buff here.
Yeah, not a bad call. We're kind of back into a bit of a stalemate as this Baron is, as we said, alive and the bait continues. But see whether they're going to start it. Boogie's around the corner, off vision. And yep, here we go. Rascal just starting up the Baron. Is V3 going to respond? Boogie just about finding his way in, tentatively, desperately trying not to get caught out. Here we go. Ace pops over the wall with the distort. Ninja takes a little bit of damage from that ethereal chain. Boogie has found his way in behind, but is on vision still. And look at that fantastic glacial prison. That's Reyna taking a fair amount of damage, but he is so tanky on this Leona. And I think he should be able to walk
Ace
out.
is going
Hachimechi taking a
forward.
lot of damage. Look at that great
Oh,
solar flare,
man.
and V3 Archer slays the Sejuani. But what happened
Get
to Lee
excited.
Sin? He's got an Jinx firing off from so far away. Look at that super mega death rocket, and Paz goes down as well. It's a double, and she's still excited. Ace, can he get away? He can't. Now look at that.
W!
That's the triple kill now for Art. And look at Archer now stuck in this mid lane. He's going to try and 1v1, but look at the range advantage for Art.
Oh,
misses the
misses.
red side, and now Archer's going to try and back away, but that is 3 for 1 on the side of Rascal Jester. They don't have a jungler, but they're going to return back to this Baron.
Yeah, there was a triple kill put down by the Jinx. Their threat of a pentakill with the Get Excited running there for the Jinx does manage to finish off Ace with that long-range W, the zap, and then the 1v1 by Arch just dissuading Art from going any further, and then the drench line missing ends that play. So the net gain is for Rascal Jester a 3 for 1 and a Baron, but they also get it onto the Sejuani, who has respawned in time to get that Baron buff.
Archer decides that all he can do is push out this bot wave, and that was a big moment for the Jesters.
So basically, Rascal Jester can tank this Baron for forever. They have 2 tanks on the side, and very tanky front line. The ult comes in from Hatchmech at the start of this. Cog layers the Call of the Forge go off afterwards, just knocking up Archer on the side of it. But on the side here, Ace gets double chains onto Hatchmech, which then just lock down the Sejuani for forever. On the other side, even though a big barrel and chunk comes into Art, the first target dies in the Lee Sin, and then Art is excited for the rest of it. Paz flashes away, but it's just too little too late. And yeah, Ace just clipped by that the zap there at the end of it, gets the triple kill over to now 5-1 and 2 Jinx, who has bought a Bloodthirster after that.
Yeah, GA and Bloodthirster now complete. And Archer, Boogie, Ace, Reyna all around for this Ocean Drake that will be summoned in about 40 seconds. And with the massive items that this Jinx now has, she is a very, very scary Piltovian girl. Let's see what she can pull off in these fights. The Baron buff push continues. It's about a 1600 power play thus far. Boogie, as you said, couldn't find his way into that fight, and you said it was going to be tricky for him to team fight. Certainly wasn't that last fight, and the first tower in this mid lane goes down. And Jinx does so much damage. Archer just forced away by the range of those rapid fire hits and, of course, the rockets from Jinx. And
There's
that's
also an
going to be a
elixir of
mid lane
sorcery onto Ninja, taking down these structures really quickly on the Lissandra too.
And they're going to back off towards the Ocean Rift, having broken the base in a really easy push, just muscling their way through with this ridiculously fed Jinx now.
Yeah, Jinx with a rapid fire cannon brings out the rocket, fires like 1-2 autos over to Archer with the red buff threatening to chase down as well. And Archer says, nope, I can't deal with that. And now we see Ace actually trying to see what he can get onto the team here.
Doesn't get it, and that's now the Ocean Rift secure,
Oh,
Soul
good
secure.
kill.
Cog's over here, but Boogie takes so much damage. What is this? He's just got down into the GA, not going to pop the Get Excited, and Art is here throwing as much damage as he can, but Ace is off to the side. But
Art is on the
mad
Jinx.
damage. Art is excited one more time, and here we go. Is this going to be a pentakill? Look at this damage. Everybody is falling. Paz is falling, and that is so much damage for none. And this is game for the Jesters.
You have to imagine so. Ace is still alive, might be able to pull off some magic, but with the amount of people up and the GA on Art, I can't think that it'll happen. It's a long, arduous game. 38 minutes of constant team fighting, but it goes the way of Rascal Jester,
And
who is
Art
just
chases them down. That's the
finishes it off.
ace. 9, 1, and 3 on this Jinx, and the Jesters improved to 2 and 4 in the standings.
Oh, wow. And what a game to end out our day of coverage on as well. Mash Swan, we're going to bring it back to you one last time to talk us through that game. How do you feel it went?
Well, I was super impressed with the performance here by Rascal Jesters. That's what I was kind of expecting from their game against Axis. Honestly speaking, that was very, very strong. This is a team as well. V3 just came off of beating Crest Gaming Act. And to be honest, while it looked like V3 had opportunities to come into this game, specifically around that big team fight where it looked like potentially a Felios could try and 1v1 the Jinx at one point, but they just Rascal Jesters just played so beautifully around this map in so many points, baiting the Baron. It was beautiful to watch this game, honestly.
And I think that Hatchet Matcha had a way better game this
Yes, it
game
did.
than it did the last game.
100%.
The story of this game for me is that actually Boogie was in a matchup where, and against a composition, whereas Lee Sin, you find it really hard to impact team fights.
Yeah.
He also died early into the game, so the early game didn't really go the way that the Lee Sin wanted it
No.
to, and then found himself just really blunted going into these last team fights, even though you are playing this playmaker. We saw that one fight where he did get the kick onto the Jinx, ended up finishing that off in the mid lane, but that was really about as good as it got for V3, you know.
I do want to say something that I noticed upon that second replay that neither of you actually noticed.
What did we miss?
Oh yeah, so you know the big final real fight where RJ gets to take the Baron, right? But there's that whole fight beforehand. The jungler for V3, so Boogie. Yes, I need to get you guys to say it first, or I'm gonna mess it up. That was playing Lee Sin, right?
Yes.
He was on the upper side of the Baron, right? No one, not a part of the team fight. Team fight begins. He actually comes in, basically gets CC'd and dead. He does zero impact. They basically play a 4v5 because for the first 5 seconds, 10 seconds, he's not even in it. He's just completely in no man's land. Then comes around and then just gets hooked and died.
Exactly. Jinx gets excited because Lee Sin died. So the reason Art gets to reset is because Boogie tried to find a flank.
Yeah, they put the Glacial Prison down onto him, the Frozen Tomb rather, and then it's just like, well, Lee Sin's dead, no GA, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it was a very important moment of that fight that I just kind of twigged on. I was like, oh no, they kind of punted because of that.
Yeah, I think there's also
Kind of.
something that, like Lee
The
Sin
team
was
game.
trying to wait for CC to be down. Actually, at that point, Glacial Prison had gone down.
Yes.
The Orn Horde had come and gone.
Yep.
And at that point, you're thinking, well, like, how much longer do you have to wait? Because there is so much damn CC on the side of Rascal Jester that like, as much as Lee Sin was trying to wait and trying to find a way onto this Jinx, he just couldn't get there because there was like behind the wall of CC was, guess what, more CC, and just didn't work out.
And also, like, Ace on the LeBlanc was really trying to get onto the LeBlanc a lot of times as well, but just like could never really dive with impunity. I think that having just this massive amount of CC, but it's not harmless CC. It's CC that comes with a lot of damage attached to it too. So if you get hit, even with your Banshee's Veil and all this other stuff, like
Frozen Tubes hurt, right?
they really hurt. And when you're this LeBlanc, and if you take 1-2 of these skills along with like one crit from the Jinx as well, there's a good chance you're out of the fight or dead. And we saw that basically this Jinx could get the first reset really much more easy as the game came on.
Yeah.
And then we saw that in the last fight with like flashing forward with like a hurricane crits everywhere, and it was just wonderful.
Well, once she had like rapid fire cannon and a hurricane alongside a GA, like whenever the rapid fire extended range was up, you'd hit like everybody on the team with like multiple explosions.
Yeah, her rockets were just absurd.
And then she'd slow you down with a zap, and at which point it's like, well, at this point I get run down and die because as well as she gets to throw the first auto out, she will win the auto trades with the lower range Aphelios unless he's got a Calibrum, and even then it's not like you're. I'm not sure his attack speed matches.
Depends if you have Severum, really.
It does depend if you have the Severum or not, I think.
I suppose you could upgrade attack speed when you level up as well.
Yeah, you could. I don't know if you would. But...
neither here
options at least, right?
Some very good play there from Art on the side of the Jinx. Really looking clean. This fight
Impressive
stayed
save.
very alive,
Yeah.
very safe.
So what that means now for the first 4 teams that we covered for week 3 is everybody went 1-1. Again, this is a repeat of week 1. The first 4... Well, actually, no, not a repeat, because week 1, DFM were the first 4 teams, and they went 2-0. So it was the latter half of week 1 that did that. Which now puts everybody in a very interesting spot. Obviously, going in, I'm going to quickly cover our next 4 games that we'll be covering tomorrow, I believe, which is going to be the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming versus DFM, which is going to be our pick of the game of the week, followed by Burning Core versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Then we get Burning Core versus Sengoku Gaming. And then to round it out, and hell of a game to round it out, it's going to be Detonation Focus Me versus Sengoku. So this latter half definitely going to be a very fun set of games.
Yeah, we get to see some of the top of the table clashes, which is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll also be quite telling about how good are DFM. Like,
Yes.
if these guys can clean up these 2 games, then they are well and truly the top of the league.
Yeah.
If they drop both games, then there is room for the
Question
crown
marks.
to be stolen.
Well, if
But like it basically should tell us where the league is at big time and how good are our title holders, how close is the rest of the league to the number one place in the
I mean, if they
number one spot.
if they do drop 2 games, they'd be tying with Crest, and they'd be also tying with SoftBank. So that would be a huge kind of upset, because obviously they currently have a 2-win. Well, they have a 1-win advantage over SoftBank and a 2-win advantage over Crest. So that's really going to affect how the table really kind of works out. But it'll also be very interesting to see where teams are starting to line up, because at that point, at the end of week 3, this is where teams are starting to, in theory, get into their groove where they are in the standings. But with that in mind, I want to hand it over to you, Initialize and Nightmare, for any closing thoughts for the day.
Well, I think that today was really fun. A lot of team fighting, a lot of really cool mechanical outplays. AD carries really had a chance to shine today. So if you're a bot lane player, absolutely go back and watch these games. Really fun to watch. Really, really fun to cast as well. Really enjoyed today.
True. And I just want to echo that. Things like the Crest Gaming app versus the Axes game, where Axes were inches from getting a 2-0 week, but Gango having a monstrous, fairly performance. Arya playing a very good Blanc. We saw Jinxes. We saw teams we'd kind of written off come in and perform exceptionally well. And I think it just speaks to the potential strength of this league that none of these teams are powerless. None of these teams are without their agency. None of these teams are toothless.
And I called the V3 upset over CGA as well. I called that. So.
You did.
Jungle difference, baby. I think Boogie's had a good day today.
He did.
Like the Lee Sin game was
largely decided from draft on that bit in terms of what the Lee Sin could do. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the last 4 games went. Of course, we'll find out tomorrow. We're not going to spoil ourselves.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll join us there.
Indeed. And with that all said, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. If you want to find out when, we will post on our Twitter just before we do go live, so you can be aware. Obviously, give us a follow on Twitch or any of our social medias or any of the platforms that we are currently live streaming on. But thank you so much for watching, and have a very, very nice rest of the day.